That kind of reminds me, one thing I did, and I still do, and I don't know if you did this as well, is when I was in my supervisor's office and when I am in my supervisor's office, and my boss listens to this show, so he knows I do this when I'm in his office, I'll look at what's on his bookshelf. And in my previous job, I looked at what was on her bookshelf and so on, because there would be a book there I've never seen, and I'll just make a note, get a copy of that and read it, and then I'll realize she says this all the time, and then I'll read the whole book, and then I'm like, now we're on the same page.
Yes.
So I've seen it where reading and really copying what's on my boss's bookshelf has improved the connection between myself and my boss. Like now we're on the same wavelength, and just the opportunities and the projects get bigger and bigger. I don't know if you've gone through something like that.
Yes, the leader I worked for who introduced me to Seth Godin and some other books, he was a big fan of Jim Collins and Good to Great. And he would always use this term called the curse of knowledge that I think comes from Good to Great. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that term, and later would read Jim's book, and like you, I'd realize where that term came from.
Yeah.
But in radio, and I did a lot of writing of promo and commercial copy, and I was so close to it, I would often write and forget that some of the things I was writing, I didn't explain well enough for the listener who didn't have the knowledge I did to understand. And he was always challenging me. You've got the curse of knowledge. Remember, you have the curse of knowledge. You've got to not dumb it down, but you've got to think other people don't know some of the things that you're privy to, so you need to write this in such a way that they'll understand it. So that was very useful to me. He would always say, I don't know where this came from. It's universal, really, but one of his favorite sayings when we would get in a room and brainstorm and jump into tactics and forget strategy, he would always stop and say, what are we trying to accomplish? Another way of saying, why are we here?
Yeah.
Or what's the listener going to get out of this? Those types of questions. It was always great about going back to the beginning and saying, let's, like Stephen R. Covey is famous for, let's begin with the end in mind, right?
Yes.
Where do we want to get to? What's our destination? Okay, now that we know that, we can work backwards from there. And Covey's book is a classic. So
military planning is the same way.
Yes.
Yeah. So they probably studied Covey.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. I don't know.
Yeah.